So what happens if the most powerful tool you have for connection isn't authority, it isn't browbeating people into place, it isn't command and control leadership? What happens when it's empathy? Connecting and understanding through perspective taking. Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Melissa Robinson-Winemiller. Most of you have been with me through this journey, and this is the Empathic Leader, where we talk all things empathy, emotional intelligence, and leadership. Please like, subscribe, and comment so I can keep bringing you content on this journey. And today we're going to take a sidestep because my TEDx Talk has finally aired. For those of you that have been with me on this whole journey, I actually spoke in Tulsa at TEDx Tulsa on April 3rd. So a little over 6 months ago, and it was finally released this last Monday. And the views are growing, which just tells me that people want to know more about empathy, that it's important. The specifics of this talk, I talked about self-empathy and self-judgment and ways that you can actually be kinder to yourself. Because if we can't feel empathy for ourselves, we can't feel it for anybody else. So let's take a few moments and just kind of dig into what this whole journey has been and what it's really meant to me in terms of empathy. For those of you who know TEDx, it is a talk. It is on stage, but it's also a little bit different because you're held to certain parameters, right? Like you can't pace the stage. You have to be in the red dot. Like you have to keep it at a certain time limit. For mine, it was between 12 and 15 minutes, which means cramming a lot of things into 12 to 15 minutes. We had stuff we had to do. We had meetings with coaches. We had to be able to be there for dress rehearsals 2 and 3 nights ahead of time. So doing a TEDx really is a commitment, a well worth it commitment, but a commitment. But here's the thing, for me, I went out and I applied and I was like, okay, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to do a TEDx. I want to be able to do this. This is a platform and a stage I want to be on. But then what happens when you get it? And you go, oh, now I have to produce. And you realize that what you're going to do is take years of research and experience and work and everything else and try and cram it into 12 minutes. Well, that's what happened to me when I found out. And I would have found out last December. So about a year ago now. And I remember standing in the kitchen with my husband and just being like, oh, well, this seemed like a good idea, but I guess I could just not do it. And he said, no, we're going to do this. We're going to make it happen. We're going to make it so. And that began the journey. Getting to the stage was the easy part. Now, what the heck I was going to do when I was on the stage was the hard part. And that's actually how the evolution of this talk came about. Because I started going through all of the different iterations of not having self-empathy. Who am I to be on this stage? Well, who do I think I am to stand up and talk about this? Well, they must have made a mistake. They didn't want me. They must have wanted somebody else. I wasn't able to show myself the self-empathy that I needed because I was too busy judging myself. Remember, empathy and judgment cannot exist in the same space? Yeah, that's precisely what I was going through, was I don't belong here. These are some of the best TEDx speakers in the world. This is where Brene Brown was. I don't belong up here. And it actually gave me the opportunity to work through being able to be on that stage. During my TEDx talk, I talk about the 5 R's. And what these are in a nutshell is the 5 things you need to be able to give to yourself to be able to get away from that self-judgment and into self-empathy. And it's like recognizing, the habits, the self-judgment habits that you have in place, redefining them so that they don't control you anymore, reinforcing them with the things that you do so that you're doing it every day. And I was actually able to put this together as I was working through this TEDx talk. If you want them, if you go sign up for my newsletter, we'll send you out, the 5 R's so that you can actually have them at your hands, or you can go watch the TEDx talk either way. But the point is that I actually had to work through this myself. And that was something else I struggled with, because there's this idea that if you're the expert and you're the one that's talking about this, that you're supposed to be the one that has it all put together in a bag. And I didn't know the first thing about putting this TEDx together and doing it in 12 minutes. I've spoken before. I know how to speak, but it's one thing to be on stage and be like, okay, I've got 30 minutes to be able to get my point across. I got all these different things I want to talk about. I know what this audience needs, as opposed to you got 12 minutes, go. That was scary. So I had to really learn throughout the process to be able to show myself self-empathy, which I think actually solidified everything that happened in that talk. They talk about the transformation arc, right? How I was here and then this happened and then I got here. But the TEDx Talk itself was a transformation arc for me. And I learned a lot about self-empathy in that process and being able to give myself the self-empathy that I needed, despite all of the experience and all of the time I'd spent on this topic and all of the research, still being able to stand up there and say, yeah, I'm the one that I can talk about this, It's interesting with the opportunity too, because I know some people that have put out hundreds of applications to TEDx's, and TEDx is very particular. That's neither good nor bad. It's just the way it is. So sometimes they won't take you if you're not in a particular area. Sometimes they won't take you, if they just don't feel your talk is quite a good fit. They really want someone that can come up with a topic that is going to change the way people think about things. So a lot of it isn't even necessarily your topic. It's how you talk about your topic and the applications. The whole application process is like a skill set unto itself. Actually being able to get there, I didn't have to do hundreds. I did in the 20s, which is pretty good, all things considered. But it was still a lot of applications that were out there and trying to get in a lot of different places. So when I got the call and they said, would you come and interview for this? I was excited, but I was also nervous. So, just leading up to that point and understanding what I was going to talk about was a journey unto itself. When I had to actually write the talk, because the group that I worked with, they wanted you to have check-ins every other week, which I think is smart. They wanted you running the talk ahead of time because they wanted to know what they were going to get in their speakers. There were 10 of us that were chosen. And our talks all had to be between 12 and 15 minutes. So all of us are going through this process of giving our talks and refining our talks and writing our talks. And one of the biggest challenges in writing this talk was getting rid of stuff. Brene Brown talks about that, how when she writes that, she writes her stuff and then she has to get rid of half of it. And that's exactly what I found I had to do. I had to figure out how to distill this into like the most potent part of what I say. And that was hard because I felt like I needed to say more. But I think that in saying less, it had a much greater impact. The other thing I really needed to let go of was something, again, that I talk about, and that was vulnerability. For those of you that have seen the talk or that have read my book, you know that I'm very open about what put me on this path, that I was a performing musician for a long time, and that it happened because of an assault in a very toxic system. But I didn't know if I could actually be that vulnerable on camera. It's really hard to be that out there. I mean, you deal with what they call a vulnerability hangover, which means afterwards you're going through oh God, what did I say? Oh no, can I take it back? I don't think I want to do this. Maybe if I talk to them now, they can pull it back in, that kind of thing. I've been too open, too fast kind of thing. But it's weird because in this point, I had to deal with that vulnerability hangover twice. I had to do it once when I spoke. And then with 6 months in between, I had to do it again last week when it was actually released. And I had to let go of this idea that it was just going to be like, done, finished, good. That, these feelings were going to keep coming up and I was going to have to keep dealing with them. And that's good because empathy is about understanding and connecting to other people by taking perspective, right? So it helps me remember and keep that perspective of when other people are vulnerable with me, or when I say to my clients, we need to be a little more vulnerable about this, that this is what they're going through to a greater or lesser extent, but same idea. So again, this talk reminded me about everything that I talk about, took me back to, my roots of this is empathy. This is what it's about. This is how it really manifests. This talk was so transformational for me in so many ways. I did not have the ability to disconnect from what I was doing. I had to be able to throw myself into this talk and deliver it. Aside from the performance, right? Because you have to be on stage. You're up, talk about vulnerable. You're up in front of people and they can see you. And I know that sounds really self-explanatory, but it's not. You are on stage for everybody to see. For all practical purposes, you are naked, and there are going to be people that are going to pick at what you've done, or say they didn't like this, or you shouldn't have done that, or even in the comments of the TEDx Talk, I've gotten a few comments that have kind of cut me a little bit, but that doesn't mean that, those people don't have a right to say what they want to say, and that I need to have self-empathy and understand. And that was actually the third part of the transformative aspect of this, is I had to be able to learn to really stand in my own authority and be okay with who I am, authenticity, that this is who I am. I'm not going to go on stage and put on a mask. I am not going to talk about something that's going to sound very polite and very smooth and very not who I am. I'm going to go and talk about myself from a place of honesty, and what I talk about with self-empathy from a place of vulnerability, because there are a lot of people who feel the same way. And in this moment with this talk, maybe I can make them feel like they're not alone. So I was actually able to get a hold of my own authenticity, which is something that I've struggled with since having to leave music. I was very caught up in being a musician. It's been a journey to not be that person anymore, but still authentically be me. And I'll admit, I can still remember very clearly when I walked out on stage and I hit the red dot, and looking out into the audience and seeing everybody looking at me and just feeling like, okay, this is who I am. And whatever you get, it's going to be 100% Melissa. I don't know what it's going to be, but it'll be 100% me. I actually can't speak highly enough about this experience. And if it's something that anybody in the audience has considered doing, or anybody, hearing me now, maybe you feel you have something to say or something you want to bring into the world, I couldn't encourage you to do it more. Even if it's scary, even if you wonder, what the heck, give yourself that self-empathy and say, I have something to say, and this is who I am, and I'm going to put it out in the world. And also have empathy for yourself when you're getting all of the rejection emails, or, just they don't talk to you at all, or, you're going through your talk and you're like, what am I doing? This is, who am I to say this? Being able to have that self-empathy and say, you know what? I'm worthy of having something to say. And this is something that might actually change the world. So I can't encourage people in my audience more to take a leap and try something. And if it isn't a TEDx, something that scares you, something you've always wanted to do, but you never have, something that can actually really bring who you are out into the world, because the world is missing out by not having the full you. We all are. Something to think about. I work with leaders a lot, and a lot of them kind of hide who they are. And I'm not saying that when you go into organizations or go into work that you should be 100% out there, because, you have to kind of tailor for each situation, but you can still be who you are. So authentically be you. And if I could encourage people to do one thing That would be it. To authentically go be you. My hope for this talk is that we hit the ripple effect with it. I'm so excited. We've hit 31,000 views in a little over a week, which is fantastic, because what that tells me is that this is a message that people want and need to hear. The idea of self-empathy and alleviating self-judgment with that is important, especially in today's climate. So I hope that it reaches the ears of the people who need it the most. And I'm excited that I could have been part of it and that it's something that I could do. And my hope is that it really does create a ripple effect and a chain reaction. And for those of you that have heard me talk, you've heard me say it. We don't have to change to 100% empathy overnight. It is not going to be all puppies and rainbows. But we can change the empathy that we have for other people by 5%. And it can start with self-empathy. This is something that we can do. We can take in our hands and we have control of. So I'm hopeful that that ripple effect will go out, because if we can continue that 5% to go all the way out, even if we can't change the world completely, it's not going to be any worse than it is now. So what do we have to lose other than nothing? And it's, the big thing in that talk too is that it's not enough to feel it. You have to practice it. Practice those 5 R's. Practice being able to give empathy to yourself. Practice the things that are going to give empathy to you so that you can give them to others. It's nice to have. It's even better when you use it. I hope this message gets out to everybody, because it's something everybody can use, right? Whether we're talking about leaders or not, whether we're talking about whoever, empathy is a basic part of humanity. Most of us have it biologically. So why not use it? It's not about just being nice, right? It's about being effective with humanity at the center. It's human to human connection. And this is a way to do it. And that's why this TEDx talk wasn't just for a moment. I want to see empathy become a movement. I want to change the world one heart at a time. And it starts with self-empathy and getting rid of self-judgment. I would love for anybody who hasn't to go take a peek at this, take a look at the video, take a look at the TEDx. And if you join my email list, like I said, I'll be happy to send you the 5 R's in a longer form so that you have it at your fingertips. And maybe you try it and it doesn't necessarily work for you, but maybe you give it a real shot and it's something that makes a big difference in being able to give yourself self-empathy. Again, what do you have to lose? Watch the talk, share it with someone that you think you might need it. Let me know what you think. And if this talk sparked something, make it only the beginning. Explore what self-empathy can do for you. See how it changes your life. Take the time to actually integrate it and practice it. Like I say in the talk, it can take you to version U 2.0 and 3.0 and 4.0. And my audience knows I'm very passionate about this, because empathy is a skill, and yes, I said skill, that changes everything as far as human-to-human interaction. And I can't wait for you to see why. Thank you so much for joining into this special episode. I'm really excited that it's finally out there, and it's public now, so there's no going back. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. And I'd love to know what you think about the talk. Reach out to me. And in the meantime, have a gentle week, and just many thanks so much to all of you for being part of this journey.